up, pimps? Eccentric cast.
You know what I mean?
Hi.
Yeah.
Your boys are back, and
Back.
we're here for another story.
Tim?
Story
Who's
time.
Tim?
Story timey.
I think you all know how it works. We've done more of these than anything else.
Yeah. I'm
mean-
skinny.
I'm Iz.
Aw. I wanted to be nice.
You get nobody. You get nobody.
Fine. I'll be Specs.
Nice voice.
Thanks. Hey, Frank.
So yeah, y'all know how this works. When we say once upon a time, that initiates it to where there's no interruptions. We each go for our part of the story, and it ends when we say the end.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever established that, but that's how we kind of do it.
Yeah.
When we say once upon a time, then officially when we
You said
say
it like 3 times.
I know. This is actually the story.
This is actually...
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
All right, I think I got
Are
something.
you ready? Okay. You got something special?
No, it's actually not special at all, but let's see if you guys can make it special.
Oh, okay. That works.
All right.
Let's do this.
Once upon a time, there once was a man, and he went into his hospital to see his dying father. His father was dying of cancer, and he sat by his bedside, counting down the minutes. Well, not because he wanted him to die. Okay, maybe he wasn't counting the minutes. But anyway, he wanted to be there for him in his last minutes. That's probably what I meant to say. But anyway, so Jimothy is the main character of this story, and he is waiting by his father's bedside, Frank. So, Frank is breathing more heavy or more lighter, whatever is closer sounding to death. And then he tells Jimothy, "Come closer. I have to tell you something really, really important." So Jimothy is like, "Okay, what is it, Dad?" And Frank says, "I have this key. It unlocks something really grand, and I haven't given it to anybody. This key is special, because this key opens something, and then his dad dies at the last second, right before he gives Jimothy the key. So then
Jimothy thinks deeply about what the key could go to. So he's like, my dad just died, so I better tell somebody. So then he walks out of the room in the hospital and goes tells the nurse, my dad just passed away, and then you might want to go get him. So they're like, what? Our thing didn't go up. Well, pretty sure he's dead because he gave me his keys. I don't know what these keys go to, so but you still might want to go get them. So Jimothy finished talking to the nurses, and then he started walking out. Started going down the elevator, and once he got to the bottom floor, he walked out of the elevator, and then he started walking out the door, and started on his way out. He said bye to the security guard, of course. Gotta be polite. Your dad just passed away. You got keys that you don't even know what to do. Not his dad, but he's flying out the door. So then, Jimothy went to go get in his car. Forgot that he left his keys all the way up in the hospital room. So he had to go back in the hospital, go up to the elevator, went all the way up to the elevator to his room. Well, to his dad's room. So not his, but... And then he went through the floor, went to his dad's room, went in there. He was still in there. The nurses still weren't in there. And was like, oh, there's my keys. And it was like right by his dad. It's like, see, Dad? Grabs the keys and leaves. Went back to the elevator, went down, passing security guard. He didn't say anything at that time, so he didn't have to. He already said it before. So he left, went to go get in his car, got in, went back to his house, and he's like, okay, I'll figure out what these keys do tomorrow. So whenever he decided to go to sleep, and whenever he woke up, he
thought about his dad so much, and he realized, wow, I didn't really care much about my dad. I just kind of left him there. No tears, nothing at all. But, I'm just a dick like that. So he's at his house, and he realizes he's staring at the key, and it's this old rusty looking thing that, he's like, this key could possibly just break by barely holding it. So he's like, I'll just go to my dad's house. He walks. Well, he doesn't walk, but he drives all the way to his dad's house, because why would he walk if it's across town? But he goes and he drives to his parents' house, and he walks in, and he goes and he's starting to climb up the stairs, and his mom's like, where are you going? Well, Dad just died. I'm just going to go up to the basement. Wait, Dad died? Your dad just died?
go up to the basement.
And he's like, she's like, well, you have to go down to go to the basement. You know that, right? And he's like, you know what? Shut up, Mom. Let me just go upstairs and go to the attic. Okay, well, whatever, the basement. I'm just going to go somewhere. Okay? So he goes and he realizes his mom was right because there is no attic in this building. So he has to go downstairs, goes to the basement. And his mom's sitting there crying, and he's like, Mom, get a grip, okay? And she's like, wow, Dad just died and you don't even care. I need to figure out what this key goes to. So, Mom, just let me figure this out. So he goes and he sees there's these 8, chest thingies that all have, the same key slot. And he's like, Dad just doesn't have a security system because if this key goes to every single one of these chests, my dad's an idiot. So he goes and he opens the first chest, and the key works. So he's like, oh, this key obviously goes to a lot of stuff. It must be one of those skeleton key things. So he opens the chest, and there's just a bunch of girl clothes. Nothing too fancy. Nothing worth mentioning about that. Some panties, some bras. He's like, my dad must have a fetish with females or something. But then he goes to the second. He goes to the second chest, and
he finds something even more disappointing. A bunch of paper clips. It filled to so many paper clips, it fills it to the brim of the chest. So he goes into the next chest with even more pessimism and disappointment. Because when he opens it up, he finds a bottle. And then he's like, I wonder what's in this bottle. Doesn't look like there's anything in it. So he opens it. And then, well, what do you know? There's nothing in it. He looks underneath, and then his dad had written underneath the bottle, bottled air from the Swiss Alps. Huh. Sorry about that, Dad. I just let out your Swiss Alps air. So he goes to the next chest, opens it up, and then there's a note. He picks up the note, and scrawled on the note says, nothing in this chest, try the next one. So he goes into the next chest, and opens it up with another note that says, guess I fooled you again, because there's nothing in this one either, son. So he's like, alright, Dad, you need to quit playing these games. So he opens up the next chest.
Extra one, but it's okay.
Opens up the 6th chest. I mean, he thought there were 5, but there were some hidden kind of in the dark, in the shadows. He didn't see as he was going further back through the chest because it's a dimly lit basement. So he opens that one and it said, you're probably thinking, oh, I fooled you again, Dad. You better quit this because it's getting kind of tiring. And Timothy was thinking, I was just thinking that. So Dad knows me. So, and he reads the back of the note that says, I had to get you one more time. You're going to have to open one more chest. So he gets into the final chest. And then he opens it up. And there is what looks to be some sort of notebook or journal. Something with a lot of quote-unquote clues written in it with several different words and pictures to aid him in this, finding out what exactly is in, or this key goes to. Well, the chest that he just opened, but like the end result is what he's looking for. So he cracks open the journal and
It's just a bunch of blank pages. Flips all the way through it. Goes all the way to the last page and it's like, got you again, son. So he's like, well, this was useless. So then he's like, puts it back in the box, locks it, so no one else can see his mistake. So he just leaves all the chests upstairs, goes back down, and he's like, Mom, is there any chests in your room? And she's like, yeah, there's one chest in there. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna go in there and see if this key works on it. And she's like, okay, I've never opened it, so he goes in there. The key works on the chest. He opens it, and it's like a book that looks like a diary, and it has a key slot, and the key that he has works on it. So he opens it, and it pretty much explains all of his dad's life. So he has to pretty much read everything to figure out what the rest of the key goes to. So he starts reading it, and then he gets done with the first page and is like, man, I haven't ate anything all day. I should go eat something. Then he goes to talk to his mom and he's like, is there any food in here? He's like, yeah, there's like some ramen noodles in the cabinet in there. Is that the only thing we have? Probably. So he just gives up and he's like, okay, I'll go make me some ramen real quick. So he doesn't have to buy anything. So he goes make ramen. He eats it. Goes back in there to read more of the diary. So starts to read it. He reads like the chest being the first thing that the keys worked on, which it's kind of obvious because all of them were like, "Gotcha, son." So whenever he finishes up that in the book, it tells him to
tells him to go to the women's clothing store. So he goes to he's like, which women's clothing store? Because there's plenty of them. And the one says, the one right next to the house, you dumbass. And he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So he's like, he reads more and he's like, maybe my dad put more clues in here. Maybe I could just skip ahead. And it's like, nice try, son. You can't do this. He's like, I may be dead, but I'm not stupid, okay? He's like, well, that's kind of harsh, you know? But he's like, all right, well, then I'll go to the women's clothing store. And he goes to the women's clothing store. And he gets to the women's clothing store, and there's this cute blonde at the cash register. And he walks up to the girl at the cash register, and she's like, Jimothy asks the girl, he's like, hey, do you know a Frank? And she's like, that creep that always wears women's clothing? He walks in here like every day and he just goes to the back. I don't know what he does. We don't even stop him. I don't know why, but he just goes in there, wears women's clothing, and just goes back there. I don't know what he does back there. And then she's like reading like some newspaper or something. And he's like, well, can I go back there? And she's like, I don't fucking care. Just go back there. I don't really, just leave me alone. So he's like, okay, that girl's rude, but I was going to ask her out for dinner. Sucks to be her, doesn't it? So he goes back there, and then he's like, he wanders in the back area. I already said that like 8 times, but I'm going to say it again, okay? The back the back. And he realizes there's a bunch of more women's clothing. He's like, Dad's super obsessed with women's clothing. And behind the women's clothing, there's like 8 more chests. And he's like, really, Dad? I'm going to kill you because what's with these chests? And he opens the first door, and the first chest, the piece of paper says, Son, I know that you probably think I'm obsessed with chests and women's clothing. And he's like, well, that's exactly what I was thinking, Dad. You're a pervert. And he's like, you're probably thinking I'm a pervert. Wow, this note is really, his notes are really, getting to me. And so instead of reading all the notes, because he knows all of the chests are going to have notes that say, gotcha, son. So he just skips to the last one. He opens it, and the note says, hey, I knew you were going to skip all the chests, you dumbass. I'm your dad. Duh, I know this. So he's like, you have to go to the second chest again. You can't skip chests, okay? I know exactly what chest you're going to go to. He's like, oh, sure, Dad. Fine. And he goes to the second one. And he's like, no, I'm kidding. I don't know what chest you're going to go to. So whatever chest this is, I don't know what you picked, but hopefully it's the right one. And he's like, no, it's not, because there's nothing in here. So then he opens the fourth chest.
And then he finds a smaller chest inside that chest. So he takes that chest out of the bigger chest, opens it up to a smaller chest. And he's like, oh, great. It's one of those things where I open it up and it keeps going to smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So he does that a couple more times, and the final chest has a sticky note on the very bottom, because that's about how small the last chest is now, with another key. And he said that couldn't just get this far with just the same key, because that doesn't make sense in a story, right? So anyway, he has a new key, and then he said that it was hard to read because his dad had Parkinson's, so he's trying to read this note, trying to make out what it says with all the scribbles. So he's like, I can't read this shit. So he goes to the hospital, and he goes to find a doctor to help him read what his dad wrote. And the doctor says, oh, well, it looks like it says here that he was calling you a dumbass yet again. Also that this key will open another chest, but in order to find it, you have to solve some of these clue things, which is on the back of this sticky note here. So Jimothy, in frustration, was like, he is really making it impossible for me to find whatever it is at the very end of this whole thing, and it's just driving me up the effing wall. Driving me real banana sandwich. So, the back of the sticky note says to go to the nursing home. So he goes to the nursing home. When he goes there, he sees a guy there that looks like a janitor. He's like 80 years old. And he's like, that guy seems to be doing pretty good, like, for his age. But I'm just gonna move right past him. And he's like, wait, Sonny, the 80-year-old janitor says, I think I know who you are. You're Jimothy, right? And Jimothy says, yeah, how did you know? The 80-year-old man says, well, I knew your dad, Frank, and I'm guessing you're looking for all these clues. So, then the 80-year-old man tells him,
the other chest is in my room. I've never had the key to open it, and now you do, so you can go open it if you like. So he's like, thanks, I appreciate it. And then he goes to his room and opens the chest with that key, and then he's like, oh shit, there's another key in here. And then the note says, well, I'm glad that you found the second key, but here's the third one for your troubles. So he's like, well, I gotta figure out where this one goes to. So then he still has to read some of the diary. So he starts to read the diary again because he just kept it.
Okay.
And while he was reading it, it told him to go to the hospital again. So he goes to the hospital and he's like, did my dad have a box with him whenever he came here? And it's like, no, why would he have a box? I don't know. This note told me to come here. Why would I know? The note said it. It's a scavenger hunt. God. Trying to get whatever's in this box. So he asked him, so can I go up to his room and check just in case? And they're like, go ahead. So he goes up the elevator, goes to the room, and is like, well, looks like the nurses still haven't came in here because it's still in here. It's already been like a day. Well, way to do your job, guys. So he's like looking around, trying to look for the box, looks in the bathroom, still not a box. Goes out to the nurses. Has there been... Did you guys take a box out of my dad's room? Who's your dad? Frank, the one that's dead in there? What? He's dead? I told you guys the other day. I thought you were just kidding. No. Have you not checked on him since? Well, no. Oh, well, you guys are dumb. But yeah, we did take a box out of his room.
Go in there. He's dead.
I was like, well, can I have the box? It's like, sure. Then they give you the box, and it's like a super tiny box. It's a lot tinier than all the other boxes that you've opened. So the key works on it. You open it, and in that box is
a pair of ladies' panties. And he's like, well, Dad, it's a real sicko. I don't know what is his problem. But they're, pink panties, and they've got a rose on them. And it says on the panties, it says, the rose means something. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense, Dad. I don't even know what you're doing. But that doesn't make any sense. So he goes, he is about to just give up on the whole situation. He has no idea what to do. And he goes to his father to talk to him while he's, dead, obviously. And the nurses are still not rushing in there to go in there to grab him or anything. He's just lying dead on the little table thingy, whatever that thing's called. The elevator rolly thingy. The thing.
called a bed.
The bed. Okay, the hospital bed.
Wow.
That thingy. And he goes and he talks to your dad. He's like, Dad, I learned a lot today. You're obsessed with chests. I don't know why, because you're a pervert. But I don't know what this whole rose thing is, but you're driving me crazy. If you weren't dead, I would slit your throat right now. And the nurses are like, well, you can't say that, okay? He's sleeping. And he's like, no, he's dead. I just said this like 5 seconds ago. And he's like, they're like, yeah, I know. We just don't want to clean up the mess. So we'll get the janitor to do it. And they're like, oh, well, we called him now. So the janitor walks up, and it's the same 80-year-old guy from the nursing home. And he's like, you're the janitor here too? Jeez, what can't you do? And he's like, I do a lot, okay? I do a lot. And then the janitor's like, he told you about the roses, right? And he's like, you knew this entire... Why didn't you just fucking tell me about this whole thing? Why did you have to send me in your room and get the box? And he's like, well, because it's a scavenger hunt. And the story goes this way because, the three people that are above the phone saying it said it this way. So we're going to do it this way. And then the old man tells him
that little do you know that you're inside of another one of many realities. This one, I'm more informed of what's going on. I have been in another one of these, which are called story times. And in that story time, I was a janitor. It was also a secret agent. It was Gerald. And I've been through hell and back to try to find peace in an existing dimension or reality. And I found one in this. And as far as I can tell, it's mostly peaceful. I just know some weird stuff about this one. But anyways, there's these three guys, namely Mez, Skinny, and Spanx, that like to narrate my entire life, as it were, from the last one of these story times. So hopefully, as the narration continues, they don't do anything too terrible to me or kill me off. So I'm just going to go along with what is supposed to happen, which is telling you about this rose. Back to this story time that we are in currently. The rose, think about it. What makes you think of a rose? And then Jimothy says, I don't know. And then Gerald says, of course you wouldn't get it. Your dad knew you wouldn't understand it because he knew you didn't love him. Rose stands for love, which he knew you didn't love him, and he knew that you were a little shit. But anyway, after telling you that, here's the final key. So, he goes to the final chest, and this one is a big one. Really big. Must be like 5 foot tall by 5 foot wide. And he uses the final key to open the final chest. And a bunch of light starts coming out of the chest and everything. And he's like, oh, whoa. He's blinded by this light from this chest. And at the very bottom, there's a tiny little sticky note that says, as Gerald the janitor says, I knew that after I died, you still wouldn't love me, as your actions probably were when I was died. You probably just went and told the nurses, oh, he's dead in there, or whatever. So, anyway, I knew you would probably act like that, you little shit. So, have a nice day, and hopefully all this has been a life lesson to you. That's what all these chests were. For you to go through all this grueling, painstaking work thinking you're going to get money, or you're going to get some precious heirlooms, family heirlooms. But no, it's just me trying to get it through your thick skull that you need to find love in your life. And about the panties, yeah, just read the diary for further information. It's kind of graphic. But after which,
He decided to read the diary anyway. So, he started reading it. And then he's like, man, this is really graphic. I guess I should have waited. So, he's going to wait anyway. So, since he decided to wait, he decided to
try to search for love. And and he didn't know where to find love. So he went back to the women's department store to go check on that blonde again. And he's like, hey, me, we're going on a date now. And she's like, no. And he's like, oh, well, that was pointless. I'm not even going to go find love. I'm just going to go to my house and play video games. And he goes, and his dad's, note echoes through his mind like, you've never loved me, you dumbass. And he's like, you're right, Dad. I don't really care. So he's like, I do love somebody, and it's called myself. And I don't care what this Gerald person says and these three people that narrate my life say. I don't want to find love, and I don't care. So then the three people that narrated his stories come inside his bedroom and beat the living crap out of him. The end.